sure to make him feel guilty.
I don't need any repeat questions.
All Former comes in.
40 time leaves a little desire.
Go ahead and get started.
Okay. Yep, go ahead.
Good to have the whole band back now that Jessie's back here.
It's good. It's good to he won't do a ton. He'll just do some individual work these next 2 days to get him back into the mix here. But even just the walkthroughs and things for him to be out there, as one of the leaders on our team, I think has been really good, and it's certainly brought great energy to the team.
The timing of him coming back, does it leave that door open for him to be able to play a full allotment of snaps week one? I know that's ages away, but
Yeah,
leaves that
yeah.
open.
He's got 3 years invested in this system, and he's a quick learner. I know he's been in great shape down there, so I think we've got plenty of time to get him back into the mix and anticipate him playing the lion's share of what we need him to do.
Did you have an idea he was coming back yesterday, or did it surprise you a little bit?
The timing was in his hands, but we've always been in touch and had great conversations, and never knew the exact timing, but glad to see him back yesterday.
Zach, you said he had his iPad with him, and you guys have been in touch the whole time. How important has that been to have him up to speed the first day he walks in?
Yeah, he's got great recall on all the stuff that we do, so expected him to know not much has changed. Anything's just tweaks. That just takes a couple seconds for him to hear and know what the adjustment is, and so again, it's good to have him back in the mix.
You said one of the things that, one of the reasons that he wanted to come back when he did was start establishing relationships with the guys, the young guys and the guys that he hadn't met, all
Right.
that sort of thing. So obviously leadership is a big focus of his.
Yeah, it's a great point. A lot of the new faces on defense are in that DB room just in general. So, that's just Jessie. Jessie's about the right stuff, and so we're just glad to get him back.
Zach, what was your message to the team before these practices, these next 2 days?
We got a great opportunity to get some really good work. There's a lot of guys that don't play in the games, so these are game-like conditions for us. It's a more controlled environment in terms of the situations we want to work. But we know that it's a very talented, well-coached football team. It's going to be 2 days of really good work. Our guys are tired of going against each other. And so it's just a really good opportunity at this point in camp to get a little change of scenery and get some really good work done.
I know there have been some bad moments between teams that have practiced together throughout this training camp. Have you and Sean kind of had conversations about that and wanting to avoid those kind of things?
Yeah, I think that goes without saying that we want to avoid that. We want to keep our guys safe, no cheap shots, none of that stuff. I think it's 2 teams with really high character, and we'll just get some good work in.
Do you anticipate the entire offensive line to be able to work together a little bit in these workouts?
Yeah, I think we'll be able to see some of that.
Are you going to get Jackson Carter back today?
He's back today.
Looking at your offense versus the Rams' defense, obviously a good defense. What do you want to see today? And not what marks success, but how do you evaluate whether or not you've had a good day?
Just guys compete. It's the same stuff. There's not anything new going on here that we haven't done before. So again, just to change the scenery, get a chance to see out there in somewhat of a game environment. Just watch our guys go have fun and let loose and compete, and I think that'll be fun to see.
Looking at periods where you tackle?
What's that? No tackling. Yeah, no, just thud.
Looking back at the Giants game, what did you think of Cordell's performance?
I thought he did some good things. He's a young, ascending player who's making the improvements that we need to see. So the experience is only going to help him as he gains more experience with every day that passes. These next 2 days are going to be great experience for him. Going against some of the different fronts they can bring against you, some of the different players that they got. So I think it'll be a really good experience for him, and look forward to seeing all these young guys get to continue to grow over this next week.
What do you need to see from him in order for him to get started?
We're just looking for consistency from those guys occupying that left guard spot. I think when you got a bunch of veterans, you got 4 veterans on the offensive line, you just want somebody there that's dependable and coachable, and so that's what we're looking for those guys, just to grab that and run with it.
Does Jackson have an opportunity this week to put himself fully back in the mix in that competition?
Yes, it's not over. He's still got 2 weeks of work left. Unfortunately for Jackson, he's been out the last couple of days, but he'll get back in there, and we're still evaluating everything.
Did Trey Hill play as well as it looked, looking at tape? He played center and guard both. It looked like he got a lot of snaps. It looked like he handled it pretty well.
Again, I think Trey falls in that young ascending player category. He's coachable. He's working on the things that Frank wants him to work on. He's shown his value as a flex player, at multiple positions. So I think he's had a really solid training camp.
How much have you talked to Sean
since the Super Bowl?
I've talked to him a lot in the last 3 days. You know, that's as far back as my memory goes.
I mean, do you feel like it was maybe more or less than you probably have?
No, probably the same. Yeah.
Zach, Jessie mentioned that he was in contact with you ahead of OTAs and told you he wasn't going to be there. How important was it for you to make sure that you had constant communication with him? Because sometimes it seems like in these situations, things can go the wrong way when there's not enough communication from whether it's the front office, coaching staff to the player. But it seems like for you that was really important with Jessie.
Yeah, Jesse's a professional. Jesse's a great dude. He's about all the right stuff. He handled the situation very well, and there's a business side of things, and that's what plays into it some. But really pleased with how Jessie handled it. He came back at a good time for us to be able to get great work before we play Pittsburgh in Week 1. So just appreciate the way that he handled everything.
What will this week look like for Leo Collins?
It remains to be seen. You know, he hasn't done any team stuff live, 11 on 11, so today will be his first opportunity to do that. And so, again, it's small bits at a time probably.
Will the ones get more work than others because they won't be playing in the game and the others need, maybe rust up a little bit?
Just a little bit more. I think there's one specific period where they get, maybe 2 periods where they get 6 to 8 more reps than the twos would get.
So Collins will go in 11 on 11s today.
I can't give you a set number of plays he's going to go, but yeah, that's the plan.
These practices, these joint practices, how much correlation do you have? And did it take a lot to put this together? This is your first chance to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And to work with Sean?
No, our practice faces look the same, because we stole them from the Rams a couple of years ago. So, everything's relatively seamless. There's some things that you want to make sure we're on the same page. How are you going to do the special teams periods? What's all that going to look like? But it is pretty easy, much easier than working with any other team in the league, because I've coached there. I know what the rhythm is to practice, and so yeah, there's communication that's got to take place. But at the same time, as easy as it's been with any team in the league would be us going against the Rams.
Did that factor in bringing them in?
We wouldn't have practiced with anybody had Sean not called, and because most of the dancing partners got snatched up, while we were going to the Super Bowl. And so it was a bunch of people had reached out to me in January and February, and I wasn't very responsive at the time. So I thought that ship had sailed, and then Sean called and asked if they were willing to come out here, would we want to practice together? And I said, yeah, we'd love to.
What makes a good dancing partner for a joint practice?
Well, I think when you've got good relationships with the other staff, that's helpful because you can communicate a little more freely instead of trying to sort out what's important to them in practice, how they manage their players. I'm not going to say it doesn't work, but it's probably a little easier when you've got a relationship with the other coach.
So the schedule doesn't come out till later. You're allowed to say we want to have joint practices
Yeah.
with these guys, and then the legal
Right.
make it work.
Yep, exactly.
On that, Sean's talked a lot about trust and that bridge on his side too, and knowing
Yeah.
that you do run practices in a very efficient way, similar to how he and the Rams do. So how much about that is that trust point, knowing that there's that open communication, that open dialogue throughout the entire time, even if something comes up that maybe you guys don't expect?
Right. It just, we know what we're in for, know how they practice, know the tempos they go by. If a situation does arise, it's, we know all those guys, Liam, Raheem, Sean. It's easy to communicate across the other side, and so that makes them an easy team to practice with.
You scripted both days of practice?
Yes.
They both all scripted out?
Right.
Have you covered every situational football aspect known to man?
Not deep into the situational part of things, in the game, stuff like that. But for the talk about normal downs, red zone, third down, get back on track, low red, high red, 2 minute. Those are all the things that we'll touch on over 2 days, which is good work for our guys.
Are you excited to see what Burrow's like in this kind of environment in a practice against another team, and how intense he might be?
I suspect I already know, so I don't need to see much.
He said that he wouldn't say what exactly will tell him that he's ready to go in terms of velocity, but do you know what he's looking for too, and when you both see it, it'll be like, okay, he's back to 100%?
He's got a better sense of that than I do. I think he's looked really sharp. He's thrown a wide range of balls. That, to me, is all I need to see. He knows his body better than I do, but I've seen plenty enough to have a high degree of confidence in him, but I'm sure he'll know when he's fully 100%.
Zach, Burrow was asked by Charlie a good question about what is the true characteristic of the
job,
Zac Taylor
Charlie.
offense. Gotta give Charlie's credit.
Yeah.
And he had a great answer. He said the Zac Taylor offense is throw to our horses on the outside, really far down the field. Do you agree with that comment?
Well, I think the comment I made this morning, specifically to the quarterbacks, was I've completed more go routes in the last 12 months than I have in the entirety of my coaching and playing career. So I think that probably says what you need to know, and that's not just we've got a quarterback that excels at it, and we've got receivers who have a really great knack for judging the balls down the field. They can aggressively go get it. They can aggressively react to the different types of throws Joe gives them, and they're really strong through contact. And so it's not just fast guys are good at catching go balls. That's not it, I promise. We just happen to have a quarterback that's really good at it, and a group of receivers that is a strength of theirs. And so I know that the Warriors defenses when you've got that ability to do that, and so we like to test that as much as we can.
Zach, this has been kind of a different type of camp because you get Joe back midway through camp because of his surgery, and then obviously Jessie gets back today. How has your team handled that, do you think? Psychologically, the logistics of it all with two big players out and then they come back.
I think that this team just has a lot of confidence, and it starts with the leadership. We have such great leaders, too many to name, and so just missing a guy or two that's we think is critical to our success. They don't skip a beat because they have got confidence in all the other guys that we're still a good football team. You're going to face adversity. You're going to face situations that are out of control during the course of the season, and I just think this team's too strong-minded to let that affect them, and so. They've just gotten the work done, and when those guys came back, they came back, and we put them in the mix.
Are you confident that they've gotten that work done at the same level they would have without them?
I do. When you're missing arguably the top quarterback in all of football, that's different. But guys still attack their work the right way, and same goes with Jessie. I mean, you're talking about one of the top safeties in the game, and so those things are impossible to replicate. But our guys have done a great job helping the other guys along with it and still getting great work done. And then when those two guys come back, they came back and ready to hit the ground running.
Zach, you talked about the emotion, the added emotion that there can be with these joint practices and whatnot, when you got another team out there. Does it concern you at all that is the team that you just saw in the Super Bowl, and maybe that could add emotion to it for some guys?
No, I think that's just what we got to get beyond is the fear of something bad happens. This is football. It's going to be physical. We've got a bunch of guys that are at the top in their profession ready to go compete, and that's just what we're excited to go see. So we're going to look at the good and things and how this thing's going to shape out, how it's going to make both teams better. I promise you it will. And then, get a chance to reflect on the tape and make some corrections we need to take and hit it again tomorrow. And then, really, I think this week's going to serve us very well, both teams.
Is, kind of along those same lines, is this week going to maybe truly show y'all how much y'all have moved on and kind of be a good
We've moved on. I mean, it's a topic of conversation in here, but it's not something that we talk about beyond that. This is a new season. We know how difficult it is to get through the season and into the position we want to be in. So we don't waste any time focusing on last year, to be honest with you.
Update on Isaiah Prince. Do you know anything more about?
He won't practice this week, yeah.
Zach, when you guys sit down tonight and watch reps of Chase versus Ramsey going at each other, I mean, do you have things you're looking for that wow, this is fun to watch these two guys go against each other? Can you learn or have takeaways for Jamar and his game from this type of a matchup?
I think for both guys, they'll face corners and receivers that maybe have similar traits. They're similar types of players. I'm not going to say they're on those levels of those players, but sometimes you face a big physical corner that can push guys around, and so I think that serves you well to go against somebody like that. Receiver standpoint, Jamar's case, a strong receiver, and what that feels like for a DB. So I think there's probably work that those guys can take away from this kind of stuff that helps them throughout the season, depending on the different opponents that they're going to face.
Both teams have the same philosophy about not playing starters in the preseason, so that these 2 days are basically the work for the starters. Will both days be equally arduous for the players? I mean, or do you back off on Thursday as opposed to Wednesday? Or?
Tomorrow's one period shorter, so it's just we took out one probably 12-play period. That'll be the only difference.
Zach, how much more will we weigh this as opposed to practice and the preseason games when you've got those last tough cuts to make?
We take it all into account, so to say that we weigh it against something, we're always evaluating these guys and what they do. And so this certainly goes into the equation as well as Saturday's game. So again, we just try to take all the information at our disposal to make the best decisions for a roster.
You mentioned, I guess it was a couple weeks ago, that you've been working Dax all at free safety to get him, to allow him to get acclimated and comfortable in the league. With Jesse's return, does that allow you to now work Dax at other places quickly?
Well, we did that. He's played some other positions, so in games he's played some different spots. I won't get into the great detail on it, but we did move him around in order to give him an opportunity to see some of the things that he would get to see when Jessie came back. So we didn't want it to be all free safety, and then when Jessie comes back, now you got to focus on some of these other jobs that you'll do during the season. I think that our defensive guys have done a really good job of balancing that and getting him the work he needs and exposing him to a lot of different things. He's handled it really well. He's playing really fast, and so now it's exciting to have a bunch of different, tools in your toolbox over there on defense. The one Eli is going to have some fluid drain from his quad. That's kind of been bothering him the last couple of weeks, so he won't be out there today and probably tomorrow either. So that would be a question everybody would see out there. One of our starters missing, so he'll just miss these next couple of days.
Does that create more opportunities, I guess, for guys like Alan
That's good.
George and Delonte Hood?
Yeah, and Trey, Trey Flowers will be out there, and AG and Delonte, and so you're going to see some other guys get a chance to work over there.
Just to clarify your previous comment, you're not tackling to the ground, but you will
Thud, yeah, but no tackling to the ground. Yep, stay away from the quarterback, please, both sides.
Don't tell me that.
Thank you.